eliminate any distractions. So if you're like me, I've got the ability on my computer. I'm going to go ahead and turn off notifications. I am going to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb so that I can really be here, and I invite you to do the same thing. The other thing is grab something to write with. You're going to want that during our time together. I don't know if I'll say anything you want to write down, but I'm sure somebody else will. So keep your notepad handy. And while you've got that notepad right there, I'm going to invite you to write down anything that's on your mind. Primarily, what would you be doing right now if you weren't in this session? So take just a moment and scratch those things down. That's in support of helping us really be here together. Take just a moment to do that. What's preoccupying you right now? All right. Last thing we're going to do may be a little different for some of you, but we're going to settle in a little bit. So we're going to take 2 minutes right now and help ourselves step out of the fast lane of business for just a minute and settle into this space again, so we can really be here together. So here's what I'm going to invite you to do. If you want to turn your video off, you're welcome to, but I'm going to invite you to push back from your desk just a little bit and close your eyes. As you close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths. As you take a couple of deep breaths, see if you can notice your heart rate slowing down just a little bit. See if you can notice an active mind becoming a little bit more focused, a little bit more here right now. Let's take another breath. See if you can notice the thoughts that are going through your mind. Notice them and then let them go. And come back to the sensation of your breath in and your breath out. Take about 2 more breaths. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return to the room. Something like mindfulness or contemplation or breathing meditation may be already a part of your practice. And one of the things I find is that it really helps me to settle into whatever meeting I'm a part of and really be present. So hopefully that's helpful for you as well. So again, today, the banner over today, what we're going to be focusing in on is effective collaboration. And we live in a time where we're facing some unusual things contextually that make collaboration more difficult than it normally is. And we're going to talk about that. So we're going to look at what the principles are that inform effective collaboration. We're going to look at the impediments. What is it that makes collaboration difficult? And what are the solutions that we can adopt as leaders that help us collaborate more effectively and help us collaborate more effectively right now? And then what we're going to do also is save space at the end, about 20 minutes at least, for question and answer. So any questions that come up for you, whether they feel like they're rabbit trails or directly on point, we're going to leave space at the end for you to be able to ask whatever questions you have. And you'll not only ask questions of me, you'll also have a chance to ask questions of the Logic Speak team. In part because what we know is that there are technical tools that are at our disposal that will enable and support and equip effective collaboration. And certainly Logic Speak team knows way more about those tools than I do. And they'll have a chance to be able to talk to us about some of that at that point. So again, we'll save some space at the end for Q&A. Now a little bit about format of what we're going to do today. Again, keep that notepad handy because I'm going to ask you a question in just a minute that I'm going to want you to, for yourself, I'm going to want you to capture an answer to. So we're talking about effective collaboration And the way we're going to do this session today is we're going to explore collaboration collaboratively. And what I mean by that is this is going to be interactive. And what we're going to do at different points today is randomly drop you into breakout rooms with 2 or 3 other people, and to give you a chance to surface the wisdom that exists in this room right now. So I'm gonna say a little bit more about that in just a second, but what I want you to do right now is I want you to take 1 minute and write down, scratch down anything in your notebook. What did you think? What did you feel? And what did you want to do when you heard me say that this is going to be an interactive session? When you heard me say that you're gonna have to, for those of you who don't have video, I just did air quotes, you're gonna have to interact with some of these people you may or may not know. That you're gonna be having these conversations. What did you think? What did you feel? What did you want to do? I'll give you a couple of examples to prime the pump. You may have wanted to exit this call. That's fair. It's reasonable. I hope you don't. I hope you stay. You may have been excited. You may be like, cool, I love meeting new people. You may have thought, I don't really like meeting new people. I don't really like talking. You may have felt anxious. You may have felt excited. There's all kinds of things you might have felt, all kinds of things you might have thought, and all kinds of things you might have wanted to do. So make a note for yourself of whatever your response was when I said that. We'll come back to it at the end. Now, part of the reason we're exploring collaboration collaboratively is because it's in the collaboration where the good things happen. And so we're actually going to get an experience of that in the session today. Another part of the reason we're doing it that way is because I believe to the bottom of my feet, that 90%, at least 90% of the wisdom around what it means to collaborate effectively is already in this room. That collectively, if we're able to pool our wisdom together, 90% of it is already there. I might add a couple of things in, but most of it is already in the room. And so I want to surface what you already know about effective collaboration, and we'll be able to share it with each other. So that's what we're up to. That's where we're going. So the first thing I'd like to do from here is since we have a group of about, it looks like there's 13 of us on this call. I'm going to ask you one at a time, and I'll probably call on you by name since it's a little bit difficult to, we're not in a physical circle, so it's kind of hard to know who goes first. But I'm going to ask you to share your name and what industry are you in? So those 2 questions. And then the third one is, what's the size of the team that you're a part of? And you may think in terms of like, how many employees are there in the organization that you're a part of? And the reason that that's relevant is because teams vary in terms of the size and in terms of the composition. But one of the things I'm going to assert to you today is that the principles of effective collaboration, the principles that guide effective collaboration are the same whether you have a small organization or a large organization. How those principles get applied is as different as the organizations themselves. All right, so I'll actually call your name, and if you would unmute yourself and say what industry you're in and how many people are a part of your organization. And on my screen, Mr. Jason Etheridge is in the top left corner, so I'll ask him to go first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason, and we are obviously in IT. We're a managed services provider, and we have about 22 people on our team that collaborate together.
Thanks, Jason. Scott, you're also part of Logic Speak, so we'll let Jason's answer suffice for you. My name is John Ott, as you heard already. Exceptional Leaders, there's 3 of us as our core team. And then we have an expanded team of an additional 3 or 4 independent consultants. Carrie, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Carrie Myers, and I work for Craftsman Business Interiors. We're interiors commercial general contractor, and our total team size is 35. And that's cool. Separated with the office team of 10 and then 25 in the field.
That's great. Thank you, Carrie. Andre T, he's next on our screen. He's a part of Logic Speak. And so again, we'll let Jason's answer suffice there. You'll get a chance to meet Andre soon in a breakout. David, you're next.
Hey, this is Dave Skirkey. I am with Aulick Engineering. It's a civil engineering consulting firm. Company size is around low 20s, 20, 22 or so. Direct team I work mostly with is around 4 to 5, and the engineering team is about 10 or so.
Thank you, David. Frank, living in paradise.
I am Frank Ballatore, New England Computer Group, located in Danbury, Connecticut, when I'm not in Florida, which is where I am right now. Similar to Logic Speak and Jason, we're in the IT consulting business. We're a managed IT services provider. 12 people on our team.
That's cool. Thanks, Frank. Frank, my business partner, Vanessa, lives in Rhode Island, so we've got a New England connection up that way. Joel?
Yep, Joel Refuse. Similar to Frank and Jason, coincidentally, I am in IT. I do managed services. There's 18 of us in the company. I work directly with most of them, being the owner. I interact with all of them. And yeah, that's us.
Thank you, Joel. Now the rest of the order is going to go Drew, Kimberly, Matt, and then Jennifer. So Drew, you're up next.
Hey, sorry, I'm Drew. I actually work with Logic Speak as well. So there's about 22 people on our team. And yeah, so it's IT as well, managed service provider.
Right on. If I'd have known that was that Drew, I could have saved him an intro, but no problem, Drew. Thank you for sharing. Kimberly?
Good afternoon, everyone. Kimberly Thomas. I am with Mary Hall Freedom House, and we are a nonprofit that provides behavioral health care services and housing. The entire organization is about 65 to 70, and my specific team is of 6.
Wow, Kimberly, that's wonderful. I think I've heard of your organization, and what a beautiful work you're doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Matt, you're up.
Hey guys, Matt Schuler. I work with Aulick Engineering as well. Like Dave said, the company is about 22 people, and my direct team is 6 people. So,
thank you, Matt. And then Jennifer.
I think Matt and Dave got us, but we do have, I think we have 25 or 26 right now. It's bad when you get to the point where you have to start counting.
Well, it depends on your perspective. It's bad or it's good. Regardless, thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about collaboration, like why does it even matter? So there have been 3 questions that have provided orientation in my life in terms of like what's guided me vocationally. And these questions have been with me in some way, shape, or form for over 20 years now. The questions are, how do people grow? How do people grow and transform? That's a big mystery. Another question is, how does communication work? These are simple questions, but the responses, the answers are really complex and profound and tend to be places where we get gummed up. And then the third question, a third big driving curiosity question for me is, how do groups of people work together to accomplish amazing things? And part of this fascination has come from the fact that you see organizations and you see groups of people, whether they're for-profit, nonprofit, it doesn't matter what the sector is, whether they're families or corporations, you see groups of people that can't stop winning. They create dynasties, they do incredible things together, and then you have organizations on the opposite end of the spectrum that can't get out of their own way. And the crazy thing is, if you're a student of business or organizational history, like I imagine a number of you are, even in the same organization, you can have an organization like IBM, for instance, that starts strong with Watson, and then they go through this period of really in the depths, and they go down into a valley, and then they come out of it again. What's up with that? There's an excellent book called, I think, Who Says Elephants Can't Dance? It's by the guy who took over IBM in the mid 80s or whatever. Gerstner, I think is his name. And he takes the same team with the same IP and the same infrastructure and all this stuff, and he turns it around, and it returns IBM to their glory days. What's going on there? Why is it that some teams thrive and other teams flounder? Why is it that some groups of people are able to work together well and others can't get out of their own way? Now, you see this all the way across the spectrum. I'm thinking about it from a sports standpoint. Frank, your New England Patriots, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. Atlanta Falcons, it's still too soon. It will always be too soon as an Atlanta Falcon. But the Patriots have this legacy of dynasty. If any of you have tuned in this summer to the series on ESPN about The Last Dance, the Chicago Bulls, there's another dynasty. How is it that they go year after year after year, keep winning championships? What about in business? I love the story of the Home Depot. It's fun. It's a little fun fact, a little fun trivia. My dad sold Home Depot the first 4 computerized interconnected cash registers that they ever had way back in the day. But Home Depot, you look at what they've done. Like I said, the IBM turnaround. You know, one of the cliches that all of us used to reach for in the first part of the 2000s was Apple. The constant pace of innovation and all the things that they did in the Steve Jobs years. And then like a current example is, for me, is Tesla Motors. Like how in the world they keep pushing the envelope forward on the electric vehicle front. You also see this in the social sector. You think about, you rewind 100 years and you think about women's rights and suffrage, and the fact that it was not even 100 years ago that women were first given the right to vote. What a social change that took place there, and the civil rights movement in the 60s, and the Black Lives Matter movement that is at the forefront now. Amazing things happen when groups of people work together, when groups of people collaborate. Any of you who know me at all, and that's a few people on this call, probably can anticipate where I'm going to go next. And for those of you who don't, just know this. I have been fascinated with space exploration for a number of years. I got captivated by the Apollo program from the 60s. The fact that over the course of a decade, we went from being a nation that didn't have a single launch vehicle. There were like 30 people dedicated to space. And over the course of 10 years, we ended up putting men on the moon and returning them safely to Earth. It took 400,000 people over the course of a decade, innovating technologies that didn't even exist to put men on the moon and return them safely to Earth. If you want to have a fight in the parking lot, tell me that it didn't happen and we'll do that, but I'm joking. So, but what happened 3 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago this Saturday, was another example of groups of people working together to accomplish amazing things. If you paid attention to the news at all, it was Saturday about 3 weeks ago that the partnership, the collaboration between SpaceX and NASA resulted in astronauts being launched from American soil on an American rocket for the first time in almost a decade. And it was done by a company, SpaceX, in collaboration with NASA. New types of technology were invented. New possibilities have existed, and people were sent back to the space station on an American rocket for the first time in 10 years. Those amazing things can only happen when groups of people work together. Now, nobody on this call said that they work for an organization that has 50,000 employees, you know, or billions of dollars in budget. But all of you are up to something. All of you are up to something, and you're trying to accomplish something. And the way that you're going to accomplish something of significance and meaning, and you know this, is with other people, is collaborating with other people. But just because we've gotten a group of people together, and just because we're all being paid to show up, does not ensure that the amazing things are going to happen. You know this. You experience it in the day in, day out rhythms of your work life. Just because everybody's there doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. And sometimes you get groups of people together and the opposite happens. So the question that I've got for you, the question we're going to start with in the first conversation that we're going to have, the first place we're going to collaborate, in groups is around the question, what are the principles? What are the guiding principles of effective collaboration? I'm going to give you one example to prime your pump. One example is there needs to be a crystal clear vision about what the outcome is. The Apollo program to me is such a great, clear example because President Kennedy said, we aim before this decade is out to send a man to the moon and return him safely to Earth. That like last little clause is a really important one, especially if you're an astronaut. Like, we're going to get to the moon and we're coming back. That's the goal. So the goal itself was crystal clear. It gave everybody a sharpening focal point for how we're actually going to get this done. What it means to get this done, what it means to win. That's one guiding principle. It doesn't matter if you're leading a family on a family vacation, if you're thinking about moving to another house. It doesn't matter if you're in an IT services firm or an engineering firm or in a nonprofit. One of the guiding principles of effective collaboration is having a crystal clear vision, a picture of what it looks like when your team has accomplished the goal. That's one principle. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes right now to reflect on your own before we put you into groups. 2 minutes for you to think about and write down, what are some of the guiding principles you know of? What are some of the things that make effective collaboration more possible? I'm going to give you about 20 more seconds. All right, in just a minute, Beth is going to send everybody into groups, and just a couple of comments here. What I'd like to ask you to do is first of all, you're going to be put into groups randomly. We're going to mix it up. We're going to have group interactions a couple of times, a few times through our session today, and you'll be mixed up each time. So if you get stuck with somebody who drives you crazy, don't worry about it. You're probably not going to end up in a group with them again. But what I'd like to ask you to do is somebody, when you first get into your breakout room, somebody volunteer to be your scribe who's going to write down this list of principles that you come up with. And so then work together to come up with a shared list of the principles in your group. And that scribe, when you come back into the main room here, you'll read them out, and I'm going to type them, I'm going to capture them in a way that we can all see. So a couple things as far as ground rules. Be a great listener, take turns in sharing, make sure everybody gets a chance to share and be heard. And if somebody can be a scribe, then we'll be in good shape. All right, so we'll put you in groups for 7 minutes, just so you know, you're going to countdown timer in terms of how much time you have left. You'll get a notification that you have like 30 seconds or a minute left. You don't have to click the button to come back to the breakout. It's just letting you know that you've got about 30 seconds or a minute left. And it'll bring you back here automatically at the end of that time. So 7 minutes, what are the principles that guide effective collaboration? All right, I think we got everybody back. So I'm really curious to hear what you said and what came up in your conversations. I think there were 3 groups, so I'm hoping that there are 3 scribes who can read out the principles that came up. So I'm going to capture them here. Hopefully you can see this. And by the way, when this session is over, I'll share this back around with everybody so that you've got this. So certainly feel free to write down what other people are saying, but know that I'm going to be capturing this. And so you can really tune in and listen to what else is being said. Which scribe is willing to go first?
I'll go first.
Thanks, Carrie. And who was in your group?
It was Frank and Jennifer.
Cool. Thank you.
And myself. Okay, so we have 7 principles that we came up with. The first one is open communication.
Good.
The second one was establish a clear goal / kind of what's your problem you're trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
3 was focus and minimize distractions. 4 was people need to feel like they're part of something and that they have the desire to try. Number 5 was admit mistakes. Don't be defensive. Keep an open mind.
Just a moment. I'm going to capture that.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Sorry.
you're good. These are great. I want to make sure that last part was important. A part of something and have the desire to try. And what was the 5th one?
5th one was admit mistakes. Don't be defensive and keep an open mind. The 6th one was just have the ability to understand and be open to ideas and willing to compromise.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. What about the next group? And hey, if Carrie's group said something that you also said, just say, yeah, we second that one. So don't skip it, but just say we second that one, and I'll put a little mark next to it. So who's up next?
This is Jason. I'll go.
All right.
So we second open communication. That absolutely was in our conversation. We said that we need the right people in the right seats.
Mm. Okay.
Which kind of goes along with people in the right roles. We also want we also feel like there has to be honesty and trust among the group. That each member needs to know what's in it for them. What are the outcome, the takeaways going to be for them individually, so that they can contribute. Yep, good. We said that there had to be good participation among the whole group, that a lack of participation by someone can drag the group down. We all joked that we've all been in that school group participation where somebody didn't want to contribute, and we all ended up doing all the work.
Yep.
We need the right tools to succeed. And I'm not sure if this was already covered, but we need to listen well.
Yeah.
And everyone needs or we also need respect.
I'm going to add a word to that.
Mutual, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, mutual respect.
And then the last one that I had is certainly certain teams and organizations need buy-in from management, or I even kind of wrote a mandate.
What do you think about that last one? And they need buy-in from management and or a mandate. The second part of that is what I'm wondering about. Like what is it about a mandate that fosters effective collaboration?
Well, I actually added that. Kimberly actually said just buy-in from management. So if you want to take that part out and leave Kimberly's idea unadulterated, that would be fine.
So, but something had you say that, adding the mandate. What is that?
I guess the kind of the thought behind it for me was that, collaboration is great if you have an approved, kind of agenda or something that you have that's approved. But if ultimately you're collaborating about something that may not get adopted, or that you don't have that upper level buy-in from management, then there can be this kind of lack of energy or lack of participation because of that. Because nobody knows whether or not this is going to really lead to anything, because we don't have a set mandate for what we need to accomplish. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And part of what comes up for me when I hear that particular one about the mandate is everything can't be important. Everything can't be a priority.
Exactly.
And if people are overtaxed, if they're stretched too thin, and you're like, but this is really important, people need to be able to dedicate the time, energy, effort, resource to be able to get it done. And something like a mandate, mandate may be another way of saying that it's a priority.
Right.
But how would you differentiate that from the vision, like you gave the example with John F. Kennedy giving the vision of send somebody to the moon and send them back? Would that not be the same idea of a mandate?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll tell you what comes up immediately for me is that I told you guys I'm geeked out. I've got it up on the wall right here is a selection. Was that me?
I don't know.
We'll see if it keeps going. All right, I think maybe we're in good shape. Up on the wall, I've got a little piece from Kennedy's speech at Rice University. And I'll read you part of it in response to your question, Scott. Kennedy said, "We choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one that we are unwilling to postpone, and one in which we intend to win." I'm a dork, but that gives me chills when I read it, like the strength of it. So the differentiation between the two is something, to me, is something like a vision is something we could do. A mandate is something we must do. And now, let me say this also. Not everything we're going to collaborate around is a mandate. Like, we got 4 kids. We need to collaborate every night after dinner to get the kitchen cleaned up. It's not quite the same as going to the moon and coming back, So I would say, I'd offer to you that the bigger the initiative, the clearer the priority and the clearer the vision need to be. Big initiatives need to be clearly prioritized and have a clear vision. Does that speak to the question you're asking, Scott? Okay. I think we have one more group.
Yeah, we're together with Joel and Dave.
Hey, Andre, I'm going to pause you 1 second before you jump in. A little guidance for the rest of as you're listening. Hopefully you can see all of the things that have been captured so far. What I hope you're doing while we're sharing these things is, my guess is that there's 1 or 2 or 3 of these principles that are more relevant for you today in your context. My hope is that you're on the lookout for what's the 1, 2, or 3 principles you go, oh man, that's one that I haven't been paying attention to. That's one that needs a little bit more focus from me as a leader if I'm going to make the collaboration on our team even more effective. So be listening also through that lens. Go ahead, Andre.
Well, thanks. We have a couple that have already been mentioned, like open communication, good listening, and for people not to think responses while they're trying to listen. We added variety or diversity in kind of approaches, thought process, types of people. Also, mutual respect, we had that as well. We had topic kind of encouragement. That would be kind of the positive way, then, or other way to say it is the freedom not to be perfect or freedom to fail. Then eliminate intimidation. And I don't know if that goes together with the respect. but that kills kind of the collaboration. From that, also we had discussion that it needs a good leadership, that it's not driving or overpowering. It's more kind of facilitation, but there has to be maybe that it goes well with the roles, that there has to be somebody who kind of facilitates or drives where it's going. And the one that we also had was the people that want to collaborate do not come with predetermined outcomes, process, or whatever we work, like predetermined steps, like, hey, I already decided what we're going to do. Now let's collaborate about it. And I'm just kind of leading through you or using you as a manpower instead of real collaborator with me. And
help me finish this. Everyone willingly suspends their own conclusions, or if anybody's got this, jump in. Everyone willingly suspends their own conclusions or preconceived notions, maybe?
Yeah. Because we've all been in it, like the way we got there was we all been part of a meeting that felt like, okay, let's come up with this together. But you kind of knew that somebody already had predetermined how it's going to come out.
Okay, so I've got a question for the group. And some of you, well, all of you lead. Some of you are point leaders. It doesn't matter where you fit in the organization. What do you do if you already have a clear idea about what needs to happen but you want to foster collaboration? Because what Andre is saying is, I've been in those meetings where the person leading has said, hey, what do you guys think about this? And you know they've already got the answer.
Well, I've been the one doing it.
What's that? What'd you say?
I've been the one doing it. But I would probably ask that the question is, are you asking how do we get buy-in or for something that we already decided to do, or collaboration that for me to suspend what I already know is good idea for my team and to go, okay, I'm going to suspend it and ask everybody to collaborate, or no, I'm not going to suspend it, but I'm going to create a meeting in a way that I can get buy-in from people that are part of it.
So what else comes up? Did any of the others of you have some wisdom or ideas about what to do there?
Well, if you kind of know where you want to be, and that's part of your, your predetermined solution or whatever, maybe the collaboration is how do we get there effectively?
There you go.
Help me with the ideas to get to this conclusion I already have. Or how can I do it without, you might see the 5 problems along the way. So maybe the collaboration is, there's all these mountains that we have to climb, help climb the mountains so we can get here.
That's awesome.
That's good, Jennifer. What I wrote down is, if you already have a conclusion in mind, invite collaboration on the process or how to achieve it.
Which I think, just to add to that a little bit, it's about setting clear expectations for what you're collaborating on, right?
Yeah,
John, one other thing that we had that kind of touches on a lot of these too, and I think it touches what we're talking about right here, is allowing everybody to have an opinion regardless of their status and making sure that those are all valued kind of equally. Because I think that touches on what Andre was just saying. As the manager, as the leader, it's easy to come in with, here's what we're going to do, and I want you to all have an opinion, but I don't really care about your opinion because we're going to do what I want to do. So I think going in with that mindset that, no matter the role in the company or no matter the role in the team, you need to truly value everybody's opinions, because sometimes, the person that you have some prejudice thinking they would never come up with something creative comes up with something with the aha moment of the meeting.
Jennifer, that's a great word. That's a great word. You never know where the golden nugget's going to come from. I think, David, I saw you unmute for a second. Did you have anything you wanted to add on this?
I was gonna say pretty much the same thing Jen said, because we worked together for so long. But yeah, I was gonna say you might have the goal in mind, but how to get from point A to point Z, there's a lot of different ways to get there. So there's a happy medium where, yes, you may have a predetermined outcome, but getting there and fostering communication and collaboration. And also what we didn't touch on yet is also training. For all leaders, we may have the answer, but it's also might help foster development for our team, for them to kind of collaborate. Even though we have the answer, we sit back and kind of be quiet and let them kind of come up with it and see if it's close to our outcome. So similar to what Jan was going to say, yeah, just actually getting there, even if we have the outcome we want to get to, letting everyone kind of see how we get there is coming up with a better plan, and also just like kind of a training development aspect as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it does. There is a definite training and development aspect to it. A couple things I'll add in here, and then we'll see if there's anything else on Andre's list, and we'll go to one more discussion. I was reading recently. I think you're probably spotting a theme if you haven't seen it already. I was reading recently about the Artemis program, which is the U.S. initiative to establish a moon base and then go on to Mars. And Jim Bridenstine, the director of NASA, has a program where he said, what we're doing, instead of making this a government initiative where we're going to design all the hardware and equipment and like they did back in the Apollo program, he said, what we're doing is we are setting really clear targets about how much we want to pay to get a ton of cargo to the surface of the moon. And then we turn it over to our commercial partners and say, how are you going to hit that mark? Tremendous space for creativity and innovation, which ends up saving taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. So, this is building off of the point that you made, Jennifer, that if you're really clear about the intended outcomes, and then you invite people into the space of how do you get there, you invite healthy collaboration. And one of the principles, I'm going to write this down to remember, I would say this is probably a fruit of effective collaboration, is that co-creation creates ownership. Co-creation creates ownership. When people have a chance to co-create something, they take ownership of it. And so many things I hear from business leaders of every stripe is, how do I instill an owner's mentality in the people who work here? We could have that conversation for a while. There's a number of things about that. But you want owners in your organization? Let them co-create. Give them the chance to co-create. One more thing I'll say on this notion of what do you do if you've already got the answer in mind? Tell people. Say, hey, I think I already have an answer to this, and I'm going to tell you what I think the answer is. And I'm inviting you to challenge my thinking. Or like you said, Jennifer, I think I know where I want us to go. Help us get there. But there's a little space at the beginning where I want you to challenge me on whether or not that's the destination we should be headed to. I'm pretty sure that it is, and here's why, but challenge me. And even if you disagree, there may come a point where I say, all right, we're still going to the moon. I've heard you, but we're still going. Andre, anything else from your group?
No, I think that's all we had.
Okay. So I'm going to kick you back into your groups for one more conversation, and it's going to have two parts to it, and you're going to have 7 minutes again, and then we'll come back and share. The two parts, I think one part, the first part of it is probably the smaller part, and that is, what is it that impedes effective collaboration? The reason I think that's the smaller part is because most of it is the inverse of everything you've already named. It's when you don't listen well, it's when you don't have mutual respect. But give yourself the space for just a minute, pull out that piece of paper, write this down, write down whatever comes up for you. What are the things that impede effective collaboration? See if there's anything else in there that isn't just the opposite of the things we've already listed. That's the first part. The second part is, what is it about our current context that makes effective collaboration particularly difficult? To be explicit, what is it about the fact that it's not business as usual? We're not all in our offices in the typical rhythm. We have some clients who have decided that they're not going to go back into the office until at least the beginning of Q2 in 2021. And there's some people who are starting to experiment with getting people back into the office in parts or in waves or in stages. Regardless, there's things about our current context that make effective collaboration particularly difficult. What are those things? What are the unique things about this season that make collaboration difficult? So take about 30 more seconds right now to capture your thoughts on those two questions. And then we're going to put you back in the group for 7 minutes. Be a scribe, bring it back. We'll capture them here in the document. And then after that, we'll turn towards an open Q&A time. So that's where we're headed. See you back here in about 7 minutes. All right, welcome back. Well, you know the drill. I'd love to hear from the first scribe, whoever that happens to be this time. What did you come up with? What did your group list out?
Hey, John, I'll go.
Yeah.
I had Carrie, Andre, and Dave in my group.
Is that Matt?
Yep, it's Matt.
Okay, Matt. Thanks.
So for the first question, what impedes effective collaboration? One of the big things was fear to share ideas, fear of criticism. Another one is opportunity to collaborate. So, you know, in bigger companies, maybe people aren't invited to those meetings, those brainstorming sessions, or, you know, they're kind of pigeonholed a little bit and they just don't have the opportunity. Ego is one that I think, you know, goes against listening to other people, respecting other people. I think that addresses a lot of the things that we say were good principles.
Yeah.
And it's on the opposite side of that. Stress and pressure from a time standpoint. If you've got a deadline that you got to get out, a lot of times you're less likely to call a team meeting or get people's opinion because you just have to get something out. So those were a few that we came up with for that.
Good.
For the second question, do you want me to go ahead and go into the second question?
Go ahead.
Okay. So what about our current context that makes collaboration difficult? I mean, I think the biggest one that a lot of us deal with is distractions. Carrie was saying that, you know, when she heard that it was going to be interactive, that her kids were playing Carrie Underwood in the, or not Taylor Swift in the next room. So she was like, ah. So that's one thing. Emotionally charged, just with everything going on in the world, and just, you know, you're more on edge because you have all those distractions, all that stress that's on you. Technical issues. I'm sure we've all tried to get into a call and not been able to get in, so it's a big one. And then human interaction with your team, being able to see people, you know, in the break room, going to lunch together, things like that, and building those relationships in person. You can replicate it on calls, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And then the last one is body language is really hard to see on calls. You can do a video chat, but it's still difficult. So.
Thank you, Matt. That's a good list. Thank you.
Yep.
I think we had 2 groups this time. Is that right? So maybe we'll go with the other group now?
Yep. So this is Jason, and I got to be scribe today both times. That's fun. So back up to the impediments. We certainly had ego as well. And then the other thing that we had was lack of self-confidence to be able to collaborate effectively, just assuming our ideas are not good.
Yep. So that's ego in both of its manifestations.
Correct.
One manifestation of ego is I'm God's gift to this team, and the other one is I'm a worm and I got nothing to bring. Both of those are ego manifestations. They both get in the way for sure. What about specific challenges?
So we can, distractions, we +1 on that for sure. I'm even +1 on the Taylor Swift. Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
The kind of, he mentioned the body language. So same thing for us, physical or nonverbal cues, not being able to hear people well. You know, these video conferences are great, but you know, when 2 or 3 people are trying to speak at the same time, that's where it really falls down. Overwhelm. So having a full plate and having to collaborate on one more thing leads to lack of desire. Kimberly, she unfortunately had to drop off. She thought the meeting was just an hour, but that was one of the big things for her is they're all back, they're all working, but they're overwhelmed with a full plate, and then having to try to collaborate on new things is a big challenge for her. We wrote Zoom fatigue. Just one more video call, you know, and not being able to it's just not the same as physical or human interaction, person to person. Technology, technical issues, we can do a +1 on that for sure. People being resistant to change is a kind of context sensitive issue right now. And then I don't know if it was already on there or not, but kind of lack of certainty or fear around our current, you know, landscape, and when will things go back to normal, and will they go back to normal, and what's going to happen? Are we going to get sick? You know, that is a distraction in and of itself, or all on its own. That's what we had.
As I was typing these and listening to you, I knew this coming into this conversation, but talking about this specifically with you, like I'm left with the weight on my chest of how difficult this is right now. It's hard. And you knew that coming in here. You know that leaving here. In just a moment, we're going to turn it towards Q&A. And there's a couple comments I want to make here. One of them is a reminder to you as leaders that the principles that guide effective leadership are somewhat timeless, and they're universal across contexts. The principles are. How we apply them takes wisdom and discernment and creativity, but the principles themselves are reliable. So whatever the challenges and impediments are, go back to these principles. Go back to the principles that you have surfaced. And pay attention to the ones that stand out to you for your context. You go, that 1, 2, or 3, those are the ones that are most important for me in my context right now. And then invite the people around you to help you figure out how to apply that principle in your context. It's hard, but you can do it. And remembering these foundational principles is a part of what helps you break through the ice of the difficulty of collaboration in any context. This context we're in right now, requires a specific, it's a higher level. It's more challenging. It's more difficult. And you can do it. I was with a group of leaders last year, and we were talking about, this is pre-pandemic and everything else, and we were talking about vision and collaboration and the whole thing. And he actually made a magnet that said, if we can put people on the moon, we can do anything. And what I loved about that is such a pithy, trite, can-be throwaway statement. But for him, he'd internalized it. He'd realized, like, if people can come together and overcome that obstacle, that difficulty, maybe I can overcome what's right here in front of me. Second thing that I want to say, and then I want to open it up to your questions. Second thing I want to say is that the core assertion for us at Exceptional Leaders, the thing we come back to over and over and over, is an insight that resonates with our bones and with our heart and is grounded in empirical data and research that we've done. And the research says that 3/4 of your effectiveness as a leader, 3/4 of your effectiveness as a person, come from being inwardly sound and others focused. In other words, who you are counts 3 to 1 in your leadership effectiveness to what you do. This is based on hard data. So when I'm going to send this document to you after this, I want you to go back through and look at it and see how many of these principles are really about what you do, and how many of these principles that you identified are about who you are as a person. How many of the impediments are about who you are? How many of the specific challenges are about who we are as people? And how many of them are about what we do? Being inwardly sound and others focused as the driver for leadership effectiveness is the principle for us that all the other principles hang on. So I'll offer that to you for your consideration. And now I'm going to stop talking and make space. I said 20 minutes. Looks like we have about 12. So I'm going to make space for your questions. If you want to, you can chat those questions. You can take off, you can unmute yourself and ask those questions. Whatever is easiest for you.
So John, I'll ask you a question to get started, and it's something that you just touched on. For the people here who haven't been working with you for years and have that backstory, the concept of inwardly sound and others focused it's amazing. It really is. What's one baby step that they can take if they are looking to become a better leader, whether it be around collaboration or not? But what's one baby step that people can take to learning to look more toward being inwardly sound?
What a great question, Jason. Thank you for asking that. So there's two things that come up. First of all, you remember back at the beginning of the call when I said, hey, guess what? We're going to be getting in groups today. You're going to be interacting with people you do or don't know. I said, write down what you think, what you feel, and what you want to do. Go back and look at that right now. And I'm not asking anybody to share. That's not where we are. Well, look at that list and ask yourself the question, reflect on that. And this is just between you, and that's it. Is there anything on that list that you think stands in the way of effective collaboration? You remember I told you that question that's been fascinating to me about how do people grow, how do people change, how do people transform? One of the principles associated with that is that how we do anything is how we do everything. So there's a pretty decent chance if something popped up for you where you're like, man, I don't want to interact with people. I get that we're strangers and we don't know each other. But there's a chance, there's a possibility that there could be that same reluctance in you to collaborate with the people inside your own organization. Well, you're like, I didn't come here to get beat up today, and I'm not intending to beat you up. If that's coming up and you just notice it, and the reason I'm saying that is this: the beginning of being inwardly sound is being self-aware. To be self-aware is to have an ever-deepening discovery of what it is to be uniquely you, coupled with an ever-expanding comprehension of how you affect other people. It is the doorway to being inwardly sound. So look in the mirror of these principles that we've put out there and hold yourself up next to them. Where are you strong? Where are you weak? Where could you be better? Where are you already pretty good? Self-awareness is the beginning of that. The second one is this. Second thing I'll say is this. That's on the inwardly sound side. On the others focus side, one of the most powerful things that we can do as leaders is be curious. Is to be a student of life and a student of the people around us. One of the best questions you could ask, or one of the best statements you could make as a leader, when you're interacting with anybody is say, tell me more about that. Is to have a relationship towards uncertainty and unknown, that you are curious, you're interested in people, you're interested in their perspectives. If something doesn't make sense, you know that there's something you don't understand. And so you lean in. You want to learn more, you want to find out more, and you're really, really, really mindful of your assumptions. And do your best to live in this life with a proactive bias against assumption. So if you started there, if you started with looking in the mirror for self-awareness, and you made a commitment to be curious towards the people and situations around you, you would be way down the path towards becoming an exceptional leader.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
John, it sounds like you read a lot, and I wrote down the book, Who Says Elephants Can't Dance, but I was curious, what is one of your favorite leadership books?
Thanks for asking. I'm going to give you at least 2 right now, and then when I send you guys this PDF, I'll include a couple more in the follow-up. Number 1 is a book that a friend of mine wrote called The Only Leaders Worth Following. So I mentioned this research about inwardly sound and others focused. Tim Spiker wrote this book, The Only Leaders Worth Following, and in it he talks about the research that we've been a part of together in the leadership model that we've built. You can find it on Amazon. It's there now. I highly recommend it. Another one on the personal leadership front is personal and organizational is the, how did the name just leave me? Leif Babin, Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership. Holy cow. Get it on audio and listen to it because they write it. They're both ex-Navy SEALs. It's awesome. It's awesome. And part of the reason it's awesome is because, part of the reason I think it's awesome is because it harmonizes with these ideas about being inwardly sound and others focused. And it's demonstrated in a military context. So that's pretty cool. So those 2 are ones I really like.
Great. Thank you.
I've got a question back towards Logic Speak, and that is, what are some tools that you guys are seeing that are making collaboration in this context better, that are helpful?
I'll take that one. Thanks, John. Yeah, so, you know, as we started this new world, you know, kind of working from home, you know, through the pandemic, the services or the technology that we use became so much more important. I mean, you know, a lot of people, if you weren't already using Slack or Teams or one of the collaboration tools that is out there, you probably had never heard of them. And then all of a sudden, Zoom rose to, you know, the heights of popularity, Google Hangouts overnight. Because every kid was at home having to learn remotely. You know, most adults were at home working remotely. And so one of the things that we have found in going through that exercise is really kind of the value of a comprehensive collaboration tool or set of tools that allow you to keep working even though you're not in the same room together. We use and recommend Office 365, you know, day in and day out. Not to say that you know, the people across the side, you know, the aisle, you know, G Suite, Google, and other companies don't have similar technologies that are great. So, you know, this is not a bashing of them. But in terms of the platform that we recommend, Microsoft has really done an incredible job at collaboration inside of an application called Microsoft Teams. You know, there is some crossover with Zoom. We're using Zoom today for the breakout session capability. But in terms of collaborating with a team who's all remote, we use it, many of our clients use it, and we're able to kind of continue on as if things were normal as possible. And instead of getting around a conference room table, we all got on a Teams meeting. And instead of, you know, writing on a whiteboard, we use Microsoft Whiteboard and, you know, all of the different integrations with the different areas of Office 365 in one place. But, you know, all that to say, finding technology that actually helps you to collaborate better in this kind of time with a pandemic is the most important thing from a technology perspective. if there's anything that we can do to help anybody learn how to use Teams better, we have a set of services called Office 365 Empowerment that we can do for you to show you what's out there, show you what's available, and help you to kind of do that. We've done that for Aulic Engineering, so that I know they're big Teams users as well. So that would be my one recommendation. If there is a tool, it would be Microsoft Teams that would help you to collaborate better.
May I add just a comment?
You may.
That I think particular tools are really, really useful, but it's also just a mindset. I think this whole current situation with COVID and everything kind of forced a lot of us included, and a lot of the companies to rethink how they do stuff that they've done for years. And on top of it, it adds a new layer of how do we deal with technology on top of it. And if I would be talking with people that are not our clients, I would say, I hope you have a technology partner that can help you navigate the waters, because you already have a full plate of how you figure out how you run your business in this current environment. And that you have a good technology partner that can help you navigate how do we do our business with the help of technology the most efficiently, effectively, with creating this collaboration that affects us as minimally as possible in this kind of turmoil. That would be in addition to you, Jason, sorry.
Great, no, that's awesome.
So by my clock, we've got 2 minutes left, and I'm going to turn it back over to Jason, and then I'm going to send back to the LogicSpeak team a PDF of the notes that I took, and in there will be my contact information. If there's anything that I can do for you, I'd be happy to do that. And I'll also pass along my current top 5 favorite leadership books. I'll put that in the notes as well, so you'll have all that. Thank you for letting me be here today. Beth, thank you for your support and making everything so seamless. Same to you, Scott, for setting up our infrastructure and making the meeting happen. And for the LogicSpeak team for the invitation. Thank you.
Well, John, thanks so much. Just to kind of round this out, I just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time out of your day. I know, we're all super busy, so it means a lot to me. Sorry, got our little Zoom thing that keeps popping up. It means a lot to me that you would take time to join our collaboration session. John is amazing. I know you guys will all join me in thanking him. He is, like I said at the beginning of the call, I cannot overstate the impact that John's had on my life personally, business-wise, professionally, as well as LogicSpeak. And so I was thrilled that he accepted my request to come do this for us today. So if there's anything that we talked about that you'd like more information about, anything that we can do to help in any capacity, I put a slide up on the screen that's got my contact information, which I know most of you all have, as well as LogicSpeak's information, but we would be more than happy to have a conversation about collaboration, about technology, about ways that you can use technology to collaborate more efficiently for your business. So with that, we'll end. And again, I thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you guys on our next webinar.